On this week's episode, we find out why teenagers need to reject their parents when they're growing up, and how their parents can deal with it.
I mean, I think as a teenager as well, I use this analogy which says that you're kind of like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly. So you've got that cocoon stage where there's a lot going on and there's a lot of growth, sudden growth, and you are going to turn into something quite beautiful, hopefully. But in that cocoon stage, you need a lot of room to grow and your own kind of personal time. And biologically, we often say that people have to reject their parents in that time so that they can get their independence. Is that something that you feel that you did for a period of time, maybe?
For sure.
How did that come out?
I think as a teenager, there's just so many emotions flying around in you.
Yeah.
And it's not exclusive just to the nice ones. You can be angry, you know. You can be jealous of certain things going on at school.
Yeah. Of your other siblings as well, maybe.
Yeah, exactly, of your other siblings.
Yeah.
So yeah, at times definitely like you'd run into heads where you would just literally let go of all your emotions in even kind of like a rage fest, if you will, because. Okay. You're growing up. You got all of this kind of pent up anger of
it's got to go somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, what am I going to do? Who am I going to be? How am I going to do it? I don't know. What exactly path I'm going down.
Okay.
So then sometimes when you run into a head, when it's always over the small things.
Yeah, of course.
It's always over the small things that the big things come out. I found.
Yeah.
So it would be, oh, Bill, you haven't done this. You haven't taken out the pins. You haven't, and then you would just explode at them.
I was never one to shout at my parents.
Okay.
Angrily. And this sort of complicated relationship of being rebellious, it only really happens with my mom and my stepfather.
Okay.
Because I don't see my dad and my stepmother that often. Whenever we see each other, it's more like, well, I haven't seen them in a while. It's best not to, get into any fights.
But isn't it the case also, just on that even if it's passive aggressive, you still know it's going on. So if you walk into a room with someone and they're not talking, sometimes that can be just as loud as someone who's shouting.
Yeah.
So in your family, if you're doing that kind of, there's a bit of not talking or a lot of not I imagine they still get the message because you're not. Okay.
Because as a teenager, you're just rife with all this energy and
is it because they're close to you as well, that they're the easiest person to have as a kind of target? Because they are so close,
know that as a relation between parent and child, it's going to be always going to be there for you regardless.
Yeah.
So parents can have their sour days as well. So
it's a two-way thing,
of course.
But as a teenager, because they've done their growth. But as a teenager, although it's a two-way thing, you kind of have to push the boundaries a bit more because you are trying to seek your butterfly moment. Yeah.
I mean, I went through periods where I just wouldn't come out of my room.
Okay.
And that was just because I feel like even if I raised the question of an issue, I wouldn't be listened to.
Okay.
So maybe they'd listen to me if I just
stay
away and stay in my room.
Yeah.
Because
it's a powerful action, isn't it? And you're not involving yourself with.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't eat dinner with them either.
Wow.
It would just be very, very.
Yeah, and as parents,
isolating.
I can tell you now.
Yeah.
If your kids say they're not eating with you, you know.
Yeah.
Dinner time is quite. I'm looking forward to dinner.
Yeah, because I'd always feel at dinner it's there would be these just forced questions.
Sonia's story of being quite rebellious during the caterpillar to butterfly stage is quite atypical of teenagers. Not eating, not wanting to come out of her room, not wanting to integrate, all those things are typical of teenage behaviour. It is difficult for parents because you do miss your children and you do worry about them, but give them a little space. I guarantee that if they're not eating, When they get hungry, they'll soon come out of the room when they want to eat some of that good food that they've got waiting for them. There's a metamorphosis which takes place within that. So you're in this cocoon.
All the gooey stages of like...
Yeah, when we talk about that.
My parents didn't really... They might have taken into consideration what I wanted and how I felt, but I didn't feel that with the actions and the choices they made for me. So yeah, I feel like I definitely pushed them away and had started to do that a bit before as well.
Okay. And I mean, when you look at it now, do you kind of have any, do you have any regrets about that? Or do you feel like you were quite within your right with how you felt?
Moving away from everything to a completely different country at a quite crucial time in education, things like that was...
Big deal.
It was a big deal.
Yeah, of course.
But I have no regrets about any of it because, I'm happy with how me and my family are today.
Do you feel that, as a teenager, you ever did that? Like you had a moment where you kind of just had to reject your parents because you need space?
Yeah, a lot of times. Like I had to run away from home just to, feel like I'm I'm a parent on my own.
Okay.
Just to have my own free time, my own independence.
Like some space. And
it did not work out well because...
So you actually left
home,
your parents and went to go and stay with a friend?
Yes, because he was more free.
Okay.
He had all his free time, all his parties and whatnot.
Okay.
Like I went to go stay with him, but later on, as the parties were getting all finished and money getting finished.
Okay.
There was no food. You
had to go home.
I needed, I had no option but just to go back home.
You're like the prodigal son. You basically had to go home afterwards.
Just to get home. All the punishment were waiting for me.
I think in the cocoon phase of growing up as a teenager, I definitely rejected my parents. Not rejected my parents, but I think consciously went against them and what they're trying to tell me more than the average teenager. I think in my case.
I'm still in the cocoon. And I think since I'm still in it and
you're not the beautiful butterfly just yet.
I've always been beautiful. But I think the fact, I'm still in the cocoon, but in the cocoon you've got different stages, you've got different layers, different thicknesses of the cocoon. I think I'm still on the lower ones right now, so I don't think I'm not the super rebellious stage yet. But recently...
Do you think you'll get there?
As I was saying, recently I feel like slipping through. I've been wanting to be, not rejected, but basically rejecting what my parents say more so than them as people.
It's actually not worth it to leave home, you see. But I tried it quite often, thinking that it might go work out this time.
Okay.
But it was
it's
just
like you were
not
trying to
worth
escape from prison or something. So you actually you left, you got the beats when you came back, but then you still got the energy to leave again afterwards.
Yeah, it's all about hoping that this time, I'm going to a better place. But it was just not better than home, home was actually the last place to be.
No, definitely, yeah.
Did you find that you went through that stage where you had to reject your parents?
Yeah, definitely.
How did that come about? How did you do that? What did you do?
So it was just making my own choices, do you know what I mean? But they gave me the freedom to do that. So it was just so after school, went college.
Okay.
To do music tech, right? But I fell out after a week.
Okay.
To jump into the family business.
Okay.
You see it? So it was they didn't pressure me. You need to do this, you need to go, do you know what I mean?
Okay.
So that's where I kind of chose my own path.
Okay.
You push them away, but at the same time you still you're pushing them away, but at the same time you still want them there. You're you still want them all right, you have your space, but I still want you there. You still need to be around me and support me.
Yeah.
But it felt more they were there, but maybe more emotionally.
Okay.
Maybe that could have been.
It's a difficult one. It's a difficult one because parents, when you push them, I mean, even as a parent, we are quite sensitive. So when you're pushing against us, with a harsh word or an action or slam the door, we do feel that. And at the same time, you're sort of saying, we still need you there. It takes quite a big person to sort of say, oh, well, they slammed the door in my face and they've been rude, but they still need me.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's quite a hard one. Nicole wanted her space, and she made it very clear that she did reject her parents in that time. She's not ashamed of it, she's telling you. But she also said that even though you push them away and you reject them, you still want to feel that they're close next to you because you still need them. Yeah, you still need your parents. So if parents are feeling rejected, it's only temporary, they'll come back. Is that something that you feel that you ever did? Do you think you ever rejected, the parent figures around you to try and get your freedom, your independence, or do you feel that maybe you had some of that?
I'd say I probably did.
Okay.
There was an element of rejection with both sides again.
Okay. Them rejecting you as well?
Yeah, definitely,
Okay.
especially my biological family.
Okay.
There's been a lot of rejection and abandonment issues
Okay.
there.
Okay.
And perhaps you could probably say when I was removed from
Your foster
the 14
parents.
year foster
Yeah,
parent home, that was a form of probably rejection and abandonment as well.
Okay.
Because there was a promise to return, but that didn't happen.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
yeah, it's a bit of both really.
Is
But
there?
then you sort of kick yourself because you think, okay, I've just gone upstairs, I've slammed the door, but how am I going to go back on this now? I don't really want to be doing this. This is just
Just expression.
yeah, and then you sort of feel a bit like that was maybe a bit over the
A
top.
bit over the top.
Yeah.
Okay. How do you think that translates now to you with your son? In terms of how you feel. Do you think that gives you kind of a closer attachment to your son because of knowing what you went through and what you needed?
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that it's made our bond quite more unusually stronger.
Okay.
Because obviously of certain things that I went through
Yeah.
as an individual and as a child myself.
Okay.
It's pushed me to want to give him over and above, beyond,
Okay.
go the extra mile with him.
So I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but does that mean you think that you'll be a better parent than perhaps your own parents because of the experience you had as a teenager as well?
Double yes.
Okay, I didn't put that. What do you think that you'll do or you could do as a parent that might be able to kind of, bridge that gap? Because it's a tough time, tough situation.
It does help when you get older, because even now I look back at situations and I think just a simple little difference in things that you're saying to each other. You could literally just sit there and be like, you know what, this is silly. I'll just pop the kettle on. Let's just talk about it. We'll just sit down. It's
Okay.
easier said than done.
Yeah.
But it's just you're in that heat of the moment.
Yeah.
And you say things that you don't mean a lot of the time as well.
It's like being in a relationship, isn't it? I mean,
Yeah.
it's like with you and your partner or something. Sometimes it gets hot, but you both know you're in a relationship. Parents sometimes don't realize they're in a relationship, with their teenagers because they just take the blood relationship for granted. So it's a difficult one, I suppose. A caterpillar to a butterfly, they go through this kind of cocoon.
Yeah, they go through this metamorphosis, but
That's it.
with teenagers it's just so much less elegant.
It is less elegant, you're 100% right. But the analogy is just that in that time that you're in the cocoon, you do kind of need room. You need time out, you need room, you need nutrients, you need space. And a lot of teenagers, what they do is temporarily they kind of have to reject their parents so that they get that room for independence. Do you feel that you ever rejected your parents to allow that to happen?
Well, I mean, I've said a million times, oh, you're not my mother, you're just a weird slime slug or whatever. Or you're just
in a cocoon.
You're just some alien slug that kidnapped me. So yes, I have rejected her.
Okay, and looking back then, do you think you needed to reject her so that you can create some room for your growth?
Yeah, totally, probably.
Okay.
I mean, and it's funny as well. So
how did she cope with that? How did she cope with having that space?
well, I don't know if it was space for her. So I don't think she noticed. I mean, it's hard to think about it. I mean, I'm not even sure she noticed. She just carried on being herself, like she always does.
Fair enough. Okay.
It's what she's gonna do. It's what she's always gonna do. And I don't live with her. She doesn't live with me, and things are fine.
Because I feel because I understand her position being a single parent.
Okay.
Like your only kid, you don't want anything to happen, but at the same time, you can't, baby them. You have to let them go out and experience things on their own. 'Cause
Okay.
if they don't, then they won't grow.
So would you leaving, was that to kind of get that space, you think? Maybe you leave, because you left quite a young age. Was that
Well,
to get
yeah,
that space?
she kind of said I had to go,
Okay.
and obviously I didn't want to go because I'd grown up in that house.
Yeah, it's your home.
Yeah, it's my home. It wasn't really my choice to leave, but
Yeah.
I mean, I think overall, after about a year of, you know, quite complicated emotional stuff between me and her, and sort of us being off and on, it's sort of stabled out.
Okay.
It sort of got more settled.
So actually you leaving gave you that growth which allowed you to...
I suppose, yeah.
Zach's case is a perfect example of the caterpillar to the butterfly. Teenagers seeking their independence, knowing that the situation they're in is too restrictive for them to be able to grow. In Zach's case, he wasn't getting on well enough with his mum for him to be able to stay in that home, in that house. He didn't want to leave his home, but he knew that to be able to grow, he's going to have to leave. So his mum and him both agreed. In other words, she kicked him out, forced him to leave, but in that time he left, he managed to find himself, his beautiful wings, and then's gone back to his mum to reform and rebuild that relationship, just like nature intended.